Joining me to chat about this is Robert Gregory, the Australian Jewish Association CEO. Robert, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. This shouldn't have been necessary, was it? Or should it? The Labor Friends of Israel.
No, it couldn't have. I mean, it's coming in a concerning context where we're seeing in the Labor Party a lot of anti-Israel hostility. So, I mean, it's a welcome development that there's a Friends of Israel, but obviously we're very concerned that it was even needed and why it had to come about.
The government's claim to have been consistent on this, as I indicated in the intro, to me is palpable nonsense. Would you concur with that?
Definitely. I think what we've seen from the government, I mean, since the last election, we've seen a series of hostile moves towards Israel with the unrecognition of Jerusalem, which they chose to do on a Jewish holiday.
Yep.
We've seen the change of language used to describe Israel. So even before the current conflict, we've seen an escalating series of hostile moves.
Why is it so hard for a democratic government in a democratic country to back in a fellow democracy that saw one of the worst terror attacks in human history? Why?
Well, it should be really easy, but unfortunately we know some of the people in the government in their younger days have been including the Prime Minister, have been quite active involved in anti-Israel activities. So some of it is genuine opposition to Israel, and some of it we've had suggested to us is perhaps a way of trying to get votes, whether it's from the Greens or whether it's in electorates which have large anti-Israel populations.
What's interesting is if you take the position of many of the progressives who are supporting, or say from the pro-Palestinian camp, they're not happy with the Albanese government at all for what they see as overt support for Israel. So the Prime Minister is, in a sense, being wedged from both sides here, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not making anyone happy. In fact, I haven't seen anyone really who's happy with the government's position on the Middle East. Obviously, people who support Israel, who are against terrorism, are very concerned. We saw yesterday the Israeli ambassador speak out in The Australian, saying how Israel's now given a travel warning for Australia, that Israelis should be concerned about the rising anti-Semitism here. And we've also seen on the left, people are very unhappy. There's escalating protests across Australia. They've disturbed, obviously, Christmas carols. They've disturbed Boxing Day shopping. So, yeah, neither side's happy at all.
Yeah, the very real risk to Labor is that they're going to lose support from both sides. So some of the, what you might call the far left of the Labor Party will drift over to the Greens, potentially. And those who, what you might call, are on the right of the Labor Party could well drift anywhere, couldn't they? I mean, they could disappear off and vote for the coalition, potentially. I mean, it's a difficult one for him, but I've always believed that if you have a set of principles and you adhere to them and you argue the case, you will bring people with you.
That's true. I mean, some of the people that are behind this new Labor Friends of Israel are very good people. Eric Rusendahl, Mike Kelly. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much sway they have in the party anymore. They're all retired. The Labor Party obviously has a very long pro-Israel history, from Israel's creation through to people like Bob Hawke. But it seems to have been taken over by Bob Carr, seems to be playing quite a strong role in this. And a lot of the pro-Israel people, like Kimberly Kitching, who unfortunately passed away, Michael Danby, who retired, Walter Cord, who's retired, a lot of them are no longer in the Labor Party. So I think that's where this split's occurring.
Yeah, I think you're probably right in terms of the name recognition here. Michael Kelly and Eric Rusendahl, not exactly what you might call Labor high flyers as such. Are they going to need more members to be effective?
Well, one thing they're going to need is current MPs to come out publicly in support of this group, which I have not as yet seen. So, I mean, I know there are voices in Labor that do support Israel and that are not completely on board with government's policy. So now it's on them to speak up and to speak up publicly.
Yeah, it's way overdue, I would have thought, for a reset on all of this, and a very firm position taken by the federal government in terms of supporting Israel on this one. I recognise that there are seats with significant Muslim populations. I recognise all that, but there's a doing the right thing, and that's what the government. That's what the people expect of the government, to do the right thing here, and the right thing is to support our ally.
100%. I mean, it shouldn't be an electoral consideration. We've seen, the latest where the government abandoned Israel at the UN and voted for a ceasefire with Hamas.
Yeah.
Some of the countries that didn't vote in favour, like, for example, the UK, Germany, they have much larger Muslim populations. So it can't just be a vote consideration.
Shouldn't be any consideration on matters of principle. Robert Gregory, it'll be interesting to see what sort of traction this new Labor group manages to get out there in the general public, although I must say since the announcement was made, I haven't exactly seen Michael Kelly and Eric Rusendahl all over our TV screens.
No, well, we're wishing them all success. I think it's an important mission they're trying to achieve. We have doubts whether they'll succeed, but we're hoping they will.
Shouldn't be necessary, though, should it?
It shouldn't be, no. The government should be standing with its ally, with Western civilization. It shouldn't be necessary to
yeah, I find the whole approach of the federal government on this issue to be seriously wanting. Robert, I appreciate your time today. Our thoughts to the Jewish community who are struggling at the moment as a result of many of the government decisions we've been discussing. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Robert Gregory from the Australian Jewish Association. He is the CEO.